Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, James, what you got on the TV there?
Oh, Denver the Last Dinosaur. I just got it from Amazon, so I'm loving it.
Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. These kids find this dinosaur, and he's their friend, and a whole lot more. It's wonderful.
Oh, I remember. I remember the show from the 90s. It's kind of a messed up show you're watching there. You're into that pervy stuff?
No, dude, it's Denver. It's not like it's not like the other stuff. It's kids and a cartoon dinosaur. They're getting adventures.
Yeah, you like that kind of dirty stuff? The kids and dinosaurs? Is this like a fetish of yours?
He's their friend.
Oh God, you don't understand the subtext, do you?
What?
You don't get the subtext of Denver the Last Dinosaur. All right, Denver the Last Dinosaur. He's their friend, and a whole lot more. Don't you understand?
No.
And a whole lot more. It's implied what's going on there. It's like they're looking at you and going, "Hey, Denver the Last Dinosaur. He's my friend." Wink, and a whole lot more.
Are you saying the kids are fucking his dinosaur?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't believe you didn't pick up on that.
Nah, that's insane. Look at it.
Yeah. He's like the I know they didn't use this phrase back in that time, but he's like what they would call today a friend with benefits. He's a friend, but he's a lot more.
Oh God, I can't take this right now.
Yeah, it's a show about butt stuff.
They're fucking that dinosaur.
Yep. Gives new meaning to the phrase, I found a dinosaur bone.
It certainly does.
We got something for you. We got something for you. It's something Megapod shiny. It's wrapped in Megapod plastic. Put on your Megapod jammy. It's time for Megapodtastic. 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 Megapodtastic.
Welcome to Megapodzilla number 100. We made it to 100. It took forever, but we're here. And today, I'm joined by Big Jim Clark.
You're welcome. Number 100. That's like 50 times 2.
Yes, welcome, Big Jim.
Glad to be here.
So, big show. I recorded it months ago. And I said, this is so colossal and amazing, it has to wait for our 100th episode. And I honestly thought our 100th episode would have been months ago, but it's been really hard to pull together. So, special guest on this show, when Dave Perillo and I first created this show years ago, we sat down and said, okay, well, who can we get as possible guests? We wrote down some names. Some of those names we've had, some of those names we've been unable to reach, like Mr. T. But one of the first names I wrote down, I said, we need him. We need him. And I spent the last several years trying intermittently to reach him, and it has been almost impossible because his former agents were not his agents anymore, and I'd reached dead end after dead end, and in the interview, he even says, if I was one of your earliest picks, why am I just here now? And I said, because I couldn't get through to you. But we found him, we reached him, and I'm happy to say on our 100th episode, we have the man who brought Alf to life, Paul Fusco. Paul Fusco, creator of Alf, the puppeteer who worked Alf, the voice of Alf. He's the brains behind everyone's favorite alien life form, and I'm so excited that we finally get to bring this interview because James, I've wanted him for a while.
Oh yeah, that's a nice get, man.
Yeah, and it was a fun interview, so we'll play that later in the show. And it's appropriate though that it took a little longer to get the show out because it's now 2016. If I put it out when we first recorded it, it would have been 2015. And I think it's far more appropriate that this interview was put out on the 30th anniversary year of the TV show Alf.
There you go. You got to save Alf for the right time. It's like a nice something that you save for the right time.
Exactly.
Chardonnay. I know nothing about wine.
Exactly. I don't know anything about wine either.
Cool if the Chardonnay works.
But I've known people who've seen the movie Sideways, which is all about wine.
I've seen it as well, and it did not help.
Yeah. I was warned not to watch that movie. I was like, if you don't care about wine, this movie, you're not even going to understand what's going on. Because all they do is talk about wine.
I think Paul Giamatti, though, can say anything, and I'd be interested just the way his voice goes, you know?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about lunch meat. Like, I'm in. Let's go.
All right. So 2 things I should point out about this 100th episode. Number 1, I am battling the cough that will not leave. I've had a cough since late December. So I will try not to cough on the show, and if I feel a cough coming on, I will hit the mute button. But a cough might sneak through, and I got to ask you to bear with me. The other thing is there is a baby on my lap. So
Whoa. I'm 38.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm a grown-ass man. A little respect. All right? I'm getting off your lap if you keep on talking trash.
Sorry.
It's hurtful.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
But yeah, no, if you hear crying, it is little Kira, who is sitting on my lap and not in the best of moods. But, you know, this is one of the many reasons why I keep saying this show may come to an end, because we don't have time to record, and when we do find time to record, there's a baby on my lap, so.
Hey, you got to start on podcasting young. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, I understand, so. All right, well, should we take a quick break and come back with our predictions?
Let's. Prediction? Yes, prediction.
And remember, my friends, future events will affect you.
All right, first prediction. I predict we're not going to make it through this show without Kira crying.
Well, that's funny because James just started crying in a corner. Can you hear him?
Well, there you go.
Buddy. What's wrong? What the hell, Joe? Oh, man. Sorry. What's wrong? What do you want? Words. I'm confused. I have no idea.
And here goes Kira.
They hear each other. There you go. What, are you going to bed? Are you sleeping? Okay. What's I get? Oh.
Welcome to Daddy Daycare, the podcast, episode 1. The only podcast that guarantees screaming children.
We give you tips and hints about how to calm your kid down when recording live. Number 1, don't do what we're doing. It clearly doesn't work.
Yep.
I tried my phone. I tried his tablet. And I tried one of those little applesauce pouches. And I'll be goddamn if it did nothing for me. How about you, Joe? What have you tried and failed at?
Well, I almost failed to suppress that cough.
But you did. Didn't hear it. Okay, good. He's going to sleep. So I think my demon's down. How are you doing over there?
Well, I'm bouncing her on my lap right now, and that's bringing up laughter. So I just don't know how long I can keep that up.
We go for comedy.
Yeah. All right. So the first thing I think we should predict is a movie coming out next week, Gods of Egypt, starring Gerard the Butler and a bunch of white people pretending to be Egyptians.
Bunch of crackers. Or is your favorite word?
What did I say? Wait, what was my favorite word?
You know your favorite word. Your favorite synonym for white people.
Oh, honkies?
That is your favorite word.
Yes, that is one of my favorite words.
Shame your wife won't call you that, but we'll work on her.
Yeah, I tried to get her to call me Honky Kong, but doesn't seem to work.
That's a 20th anniversary thing. You gotta earn it.
And we live in a townhouse, so I keep telling her that we're townhouse crackers.
Oh, 70s racial slang.
Yes.
But Gods of Egypt, eh?
The Gods of Egypt. Look, this movie's getting... this movie's been panned since the first trailer. Primarily because people are saying, well, the cast is all white and not Egyptian. Okay, maybe in this day and age, that kind of thing doesn't fly like it used to, but that doesn't really bother me so much because look at Clash of the Titans, the original. I mean, that's just kind of the Hollywood way. I mean, Kevin Sorbo was Hercules, and Lou Ferrigno was Hercules, and Harry Hamlin was Perseus. You know, it's like, this is just what we've always done, and now maybe we're getting a little more politically correct, and that's probably a good thing. But this movie looks like a throwback. And
even The Rock was Hercules, and he's not a
oh yeah, yeah,
or whatever. So it works. It works both ways, I think.
I think this is a movie we have to take it for what it is, and it looks cheesy, but it looks like it knows it's cheesy, and I think it's trying to be a goofball, fun romp of a movie. I think it's trying to be like a superhero movie in ancient Egypt. Like, that's what I get from it. What do you think?
Yeah, same thing. Over the top, zany. Not to be taken seriously. If this was a documentary, then I think I'd, then maybe it's a little more important to make sure it's, I don't know, culturally accurate. But you're right. It's silly. It's insane. You see robots or some kind of machines in the background. You got giants and gods fighting, and some giant three-headed flame serpent. So it does. It looks nuts. It looks like a medieval crank, something like that.
Oh yeah. That's a good description. That is what I get from the trailer. I really want to see this. I think it just looks like a blast. It looks like the kind of movie I wish the remake of Clash of the Titans had been, because I hated that. And this looks more like that kind of goofy romp that I wanted from it.
Yeah, the difference I think between the two, just so far on the surface, is the Clash of the Titans was not fun at all. Where the original was fun. This
right.
looks fun. So
yeah, the remake took itself seriously.
It did, very seriously, and you can't.
Yeah, like they wouldn't include Bubo, the robot owl, because they thought it wasn't realistic enough. And it's like, you're going for realism? You're making Clash of the damn Titans.
Are we going to kill the Kraken with Medusa's severed head at the end of this? Or do I riding Pegasus? Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Exactly.
Other than that, totally realistic.
So, Gods of Egypt, I'm sure it's not going to be great. I'm sure it's not going to be a terrific movie. But I think it's going to be exactly what it looks like, which is just a goofball romp.
Yeah, I call it a 50-50. It could either be, it could be a mess, but it could also be dumb fun. So I'm hoping for dumb fun.
That's what I'm hoping for. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'm in.
There was another movie we saw the trailer for that you wanted to mention.
Yes. While watching Deadpool, there is a movie coming out in about a month or so called Hardcore Henry. Did you see this trailer?
I did. I actually don't really remember the trailer, though. I just remember everything was coming from Henry's point of view. And we were wondering, as the trailer was running, if that was going to be the whole movie.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first thought, I wasn't sure if this was like a sequel to RoboCop. You see this guy laying in the bed looking at his feet, and this lady kind of slaps a foot on and it rotates, and you see it's robotic. But you're right, it's first person. The whole film appears to be first person, almost like a first person shooter video game where you see the action from his eyes. So, exactly, I agree. So, like when he's running, you see his hands moving. When he's shooting, you see him shooting from his perspective. You see his feet and legs. One thing that's interesting is that I'm curious to see if it has. I know a lot of first person shooter games tend to make people ill because of the speed. You're kind of moving and you kind of get vertigo. So I wonder if the movie, having that for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, will have the same effect. But it does. It looks like it's a sci-fi action-adventure movie completely from the first-person perspective. And again, they didn't give you a lot of backstory on it. It was like a quick teaser more, though, than a real trailer. But it was enough to make me interested as a first-person kind of gamer type. So.
Yeah, I remember being interested in the trailer. I was confused by it. Like, I don't know what the heck this is. But I'm like, yeah, it looks interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got my boy Tim Roth, Charlito Copley. So, I have high hopes.
All right, let's talk about the big one.
The Big Lebowski.
The big one. But the Big Jim. Big
I'll
Jim.
show you the big one. Sorry.
Big Jim.
That's my name. Please. Wear it out if you must.
Batman versus Superman.
Oh, yeah.
It's a month away, and there's rumors going around that Warner Brothers is not happy with it, and they're thinking of pulling the plug on the Justice League movie because of how unhappy they are. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed, especially online, it seems like there is a desire, an absolute desire to hate the movie.
Yep.
And like people want it to fail. People they don't want to like it. And I'm finding it very odd because as you know, I hated Man of Steel.
Yep.
But as much as I hated Man of Steel, this looks really good to me. It's everything I wanted it to be from what we're seeing in the trailers. Like I said, one of my problems with Man of Steel was all the destruction. And I said Superman didn't feel like a hero because he wasn't even trying to prevent the destruction. In fact, he was contributing to it. Well, this movie, it looks like society now doesn't trust Superman because of what he did in that movie, which is what I said the sequel had to do.
Yep.
You have to address the elephant in the room that this guy destroyed half the city. And he basically needs to prove himself now. He needs to basically win people back and say, hey, sorry about that, and show that he's a hero. And it looks like that's the approach they're taking. It looks like Batman comes because he doesn't trust Superman because of all the destruction. It looks like Lex Luthor doesn't trust Superman because of all the destruction. And it's addressing the elephant in the room. I like everything I'm seeing about this movie.
I just think, and you know, we talked about this before. I mean, the internet has become just a really mean place, if that's a, oversimplification, but it's true. Like anything that comes, it's like the goal is to be the first to shit on it. And again, we shit on things. Sometimes things just don't look good. And there are people who are listening right now who honestly, their honest opinion is they don't like what they see. And that is cool. But I wonder how much of it is we just shit on it because it's new, it's there, it's coming, versus I really don't like what I see. I really don't like XYZ actor. So I think it's a good idea. I think the best way to put those two together as enemies is to use that portion from the first movie. The fact that Superman wouldn't mind throwing Zod through buildings and causing wanton destruction. You figure in the old movies, anytime something fell, you figure Superman too, perfect example. Superman's weakness was he cared so much about the people that Zod and his crew tried to use that against him by, blowing stuff up and knocking stuff down. So you're right. I think that that's a really cool way to put Superman versus Batman against each other. A good reason to make Batman not like him and not trust him is because of that destruction. And maybe you see some growth from Superman as this goes along. Maybe somewhere he realizes, oh yeah, I'm invincible, but the people under me with the buildings falling on them aren't. Maybe I need to take more consideration. Maybe I should see the repercussions of my actions. And maybe he comes closer to the Superman we know. So I do. I think it could be really good. So my only fear, honestly, and I don't know how many people are mentioning it, maybe a lot, maybe no one, is the Spider-Man 3 50, 50 people in the movie thing. So
Now, see, that doesn't worry me at all. I keep hearing people say, well, there's too much in it, too much in it. And I'm thinking, well, I think we've learned by now that that's not a concern. If the movie's well done. Because people said the same thing going into X-Men Days of Future Past. Well, there's too many characters. It's going to be a mess. That movie was fantastic. Same thing going into Avengers. Well, how are you going to juggle all those characters? It's too much. And it worked. And I think this movie, for everyone saying how many characters are in it and it's too much, I think there's less in this movie than there were in Avengers and in X-Men. I was also telling Dave Perillo, I don't think Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg, and these other characters who are supposed to make cameos, I don't think they're going to play much of a role at all. People keep saying, oh, and then Aquaman's in it, and Flash is in it, and that's too much. How are you going to squeeze them in there? And, I really don't think they're probably in the movie, like, at all. I have a feeling we're going to see them for a second at the very end. Like, I think it's going to be maybe something like the new Avengers at the end of Age of Ultron, where they went to the compound and they basically stood there and Cap yelled Avengers and then didn't say assemble because Joss Whedon weirdly didn't want that word in the movie.
save that for the next one. You can't give them all.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? No, but you think this one, the only guy we know coming into it really is Superman.
Right.
We got a brand new Batman. We know who Batman is and what he does, but we don't know this Batman. Wonder Woman, I guess the big bad will be introduced, which you get every movie. That's no big deal. Lex, So, I mean, you're right. If they do balance it out, it's certainly possible. But for me, just because, I think Spider-Man 3 and the new Amazing Spider-Man 2, I thought both of those movies, their big problem was they put too much in at one time. So as long as they manage it, and what you said's a great idea, it's certainly possible. I don't look at it as some insurmountable challenge, but it's something am curious to see how they handle.
Now,
So,
a rumor I've heard, and don't go saying, spoilers, spoilers, because I don't know anything. This is just speculation that I've heard. But I've heard speculation that Wonder Woman is like 5,000 years old in the movie. And the Wonder Woman movie that's shooting right now takes place during World War One. So the Wonder Woman movie is going to be a prequel to all of this. But the rumor I heard is Wonder Woman basically was active around World War One. She was in the United States. Then she left, went back to Themyscira, and disappeared until now. Well, my thoughts and some of the speculation I heard is that Wonder Woman knows something's coming. She can sense it, and that's what brings her back. And Wonder Woman is probably the one who forms the Justice League. Like, she's got these two titans battling it out in Gotham City or Metropolis, wherever the movie takes place. And she basically goes, I think, to break them up, stop them from fighting, and recruit them for this team she's putting together. So I have a feeling that the end of the movie is going to be basically Wonder Woman gets Superman and Batman to make peace, and then brings them in and says, let me introduce you to the other guys I've got. This is the Flash. This is Green Lantern. This is Aquaman. And then at the end, and together we are the Justice League. And then, cut to a screen that says, coming soon, Justice League, Part 1.
so she's Captain America and Sam Jackson.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'd buy that.
We'll see. I could be dead wrong. But
I do like the idea that, she's kind of like the peacemaker with the bigger picture. Hey, I've been doing the superhero thing for 5,000 years, son. Let me, you gotta look farther. I got a hunch. Maybe the hunch is dark side or whatever the heck they're going to try it out. But that's cool. I am excited for it though, and and until I see it, I'm going to continue to be excited, and even then, I hope to continue to be excited, just because I think we can all agree more good nerd is always a good thing to have. So I like this golden age of superheroes, and I do. I really want them to be successful because I want a great Justice League movie. And the fact that Warner's already shaken means nothing because I never think they know what they have. So
I still think they should have basically done this years ago. Superman Returns and Batman Begins came out back-to-back years. 05 and 06. So a decade ago, they could have been putting together their Justice League. And the only reason they didn't is because Christopher Nolan didn't want it. And I think they basically should have said, sit down and shut up to Christopher Nolan. Like, we're doing this. You don't want in, get the hell out. But I think maybe that The Dark Knight should have made some mention of Superman in the events of Superman Returns. He didn't have to get a cameo, but just start putting your pieces together back then. And they didn't, and they let a whole decade slip away, and now they're trying to play catch-up. And it's like, well, if you had been doing what Marvel was doing a decade ago, and you could have been, we'd be there by now. But you let one guy, one filmmaker, tell you, no. I mean, he's playing with your property. He's playing with the property Warner Brothers owns, and he's dictating to Warner Brothers how it's going to go down. I know people love the Batman movies that Nolan made, and they were good movies. I'm not crapping on the movies, but I don't like Nolan. Like, I don't like the way he conducts himself because it's not his. It's like you got to play by the rules a little bit.
What I find crazy? I mean, X-Men came out in 2000? You have the most famous superhero group, bar none. Like, Avengers is doing crazy now. But at the time, Avengers couldn't touch Justice League as far as fame and just general knowledge. Like a guy in the street, like Justice League is the one. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. You have pretty much the holy trinity right there. I just find it amazing that it's taken this long. Even before then, for them to get something together. We've had X-Men movies, we've had Avengers movies, we've had the Guardians of the Galaxy, we've had all kinds of crazy team-ups, but the Justice League is now just coming about for the first time. Like,
And what's amazing is Warner Brothers has owned DC Comics outright since the 70s. So all those characters were under one roof since the 70s, whereas the Marvel characters were spread out. Spider-Man was at Sony, the X-Men were at Fox, Daredevil was at Fox, the Hulk was at Universal, and it was kind of a mess. And they basically had to pull everything together, and they still don't have everything together because the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are both still at Fox, and Sony still has Spider-Man, but they worked a deal out. So they still haven't gotten it all together. But they were able to pull it together with the rights spread out to a dozen different studios before the guys who had it all under one roof from day one were able to.
that is the killer. It is so much easier for DC. Like right now, if I wanted to do Wolverine Captain America live movie, can't do it. Or God knows what it would take. Today, you can name probably any two DC properties and slap them together, and they can do it tomorrow. I want
Yeah.
Nightwing and Robin in a movie as two separate entities, or Darkseid hanging out with Wonder Woman. You can do whatever you want to do. There is no limitation other than the creativity of the folks putting it together.
Right. If Warner Brothers had any vision, in 1990 or 91, somewhere around there, we could have had a movie starring Michael Keaton as Batman and Christopher Reeve as Superman.
How awesome would that have been? Like right then, they would have got the hint. Like, guys, let's put together Justice League. You keep the Batman thing going. You get the Christopher Reeve Supermans keep going. You throw in a Wonder Woman, introduce guys as they come. It could have been crazy by now. No
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah, at that time, the Wonder Woman series was running in the late 70s, so they could have grabbed Linda Carter again. Like, you wouldn't even need to do a Wonder Woman movie. They could have been like, hey, look, all these guys in these roles already, and here they are. We threw them together. It would have blown people's minds.
Yep.
But they didn't have the vision then, and the only way they got the vision now is by watching Disney do it.
That's exactly what it is. They've seen it, so hey, we'll do that with our stuff. So that's my, I don't know. I'd like to see them innovate a little more. So that's all. Like for me, Suicide Squad, which I'm excited for as well. I wonder if that would have been something that would even been on the radar if some of the lesser stuff that Marvel didn't work. I don't know.
Right.
Like I think it's cool, and I'm glad they're doing it. Don't get me wrong. And it has a chance to be different because this will be one of the first superhero movies where the bad guys are all together doing their thing.
Oh, yeah, and let me tell you right now what I love about Suicide Squad, the trailer. The Superman movies, or Man of Steel, and now Batman Superman, have looked very, very serious and dark, and they take themselves very important. And we heard about a year ago that there was an edict from DC or Warner Brothers that said these movies would have no jokes. No jokes. These would be the serious movies. And a lot of people thought, well, that's a crappy idea. Like, oh, well, you're not going to have any humor in your movies? That's terrible. And the one thing I'm loving about Suicide Squad is we're seeing they must have backtracked on that because the Suicide Squad looks like it's having fun. There's a lot of humor in that Suicide Squad trailer.
How awful would it have been with like a dead-ass serious Harley Quinn?
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't work. Would not work.
Hey, Mr. J. I don't even know how you do it. I don't even know how you do it. So they just need, I don't know. I just wish that they would just have some fun. That's what my advice to Warner would be. It's like, get the stick out of your ass and have a little bit of fun.
And that's another thing. The second trailer for Batman vs. Superman, a lot of people complained about that trailer. And one line in that trailer that is my favorite line in the trailer, people complained about, said it felt out of place. I'm like, felt out of place? It was my favorite line. And that's when Wonder Woman shows up and Superman says to Batman, is she with you? And Batman goes, I thought she was with you. That was a funny line, and it showed that there's a little bit of humor in there. It's like, oh, look, they're not taking everything so seriously. Thank God. Thank God, because the last one they did.
There's a line, too, Eisenberg had in that trailer. Like, I can't remember it now, but she calls him, like, madman,
Yeah.
Madness is something that those who can't understand. It seems, I don't know. I hope this could be a return to form, and this could be their starting point. And I know they already have a Superman movie, but I don't think that's an anchor. This could be an anchor that you can really build around. So it would really be awful if this didn't work out and they kind of scrapped every plan going forward just because, I don't know. You said they're already getting cold feet. That's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
well, the rumor that's been going around this week is that they're all in. They have to be. There's no
Yeah.
choice.
Yep.
They're all in for Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman because Suicide Squad is finished and Wonder Woman is now shooting.
Yep.
So there's no going back on those two. But the rumor that has been circulating the internet this week is that if Batman versus Superman doesn't work, Justice League will be replaced on the schedule, the calendar of events, with a solo Batman movie about Ben Affleck's Batman. Because apparently test audiences are loving Ben Affleck as Batman.
But not them together? Like, that's such a strange decision,
I don't know. We'll see. We'll know in a month.
All right.
But
I can't believe it's here already, though. It seems so far away.
Yeah, I'm really liking the trailers, though. So I'm going in wanting to like it and hoping I like it and thinking so far I like what I see. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know it's hard to come in with expectations, but I will be surprised if this is a disappointment. I will be legitimately surprised. So.
Yeah. All right, should we take a break and come back with high fives?
Break.
Greetings from TG Geeks Webcast, where
Ben
and Keith, the two gay geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it.
Find our episodes each week on tggeeks.com.
Visit our Facebook page, TG Geeks Webcast.
On Google Plus and YouTube, look for us as Two Gay Geeks. You can tweet at TG Geeks and at the Two Gay Geeks.
Or call our feedback line at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. Happy listening. Peace.
Cheers.
Hi, this is Jimmy the Robot from the Aquabats, and you're listening to Megapodzilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
Code 5, repeat, code 5.
1,
2,
3,
4.
5.
All right, Kira's sleeping on my lap. So.
Oh, mine's sleeping too on my shoulder.
Aw.
Look at that. Look at that. And we're back here on Daddy Daytime. And as you see, the soothing voice of their father talking about the nerdiest shit you can think of puts a kid out like that. What do you
Yes.
think?
Yes, Kira's asleep.
That's big
Kira's
monsters
asleep
on my
and,
shoulder.
and little Jim's asleep.
Oh, he's Big Jim. I'm Little Jim. This is my
Oh,
version.
oh.
He's going to be
you're-
13.8. So,
All right, well, we're back for the high fives. So, first thing I think we should give a high five to is a superhero movie that everybody seems to love and that the internet actually did not hate. Before it came out, people were expecting and wanting to like this, and they did. Deadpool.
yeah. You know what's funny? I think they hate it. They didn't hate it because it wasn't supposed to be this good. Next one they'll hate. Second one will get destroyed all the way through. Something will happen. They'll make a change or two and they'll wreck it. But I really enjoyed Deadpool. It was everything I wanted it to be. I had a lot of fun with it. What'd you think?
I really liked it. It was great. It's fantastic. It really is. Now, here's something. I'm going to say something controversial. I'm going to make the fanboys angry. But first of all, let's make one thing clear. I wouldn't change anything about this movie. I love this movie. I wouldn't change anything about it. But having said that, I was thinking a lot has been made over the fact that it was the first, and people keep pointing out it's not the first. Okay, it's the first mainstream. Let's use that word. Mainstream R-rated superhero movie, like a Marvel or DC property that is very, very mainstream. Because Watchmen was, that was always a little bit more mature. And same thing with The Crow. That was an independent book. And Judge Dredd. Okay. Yes, they were rated R. They're comic books. But we're talking Marvel, DC, off the rack at 7-Eleven kind of fare. This is the first one that had an R rating. And a lot's been made of that. But it occurred to me after I saw the movie, Deadpool really did not need an R rating. And I know I'm going to get hate mail for saying that. But the comic book, the Deadpool comic that Marvel publishes, is not a mature reader's book. He doesn't use profanity every other word in the comic. So they could have done it PG Deadpool and still kept it true to the source material. Now, loving the movie as I do, I wouldn't change anything, so I'm glad we got the movie we got. But we didn't need to get that movie either. What do you think?
I think the R could have been mainly for the viciousness. It's like, at least based on the comic. Because on the comic, it's pretty dismembery is probably a good word. But I think you could have, I don't think it would have ruined it. I will go on record, and I will agree with you there. I'm glad they did, and I think it gives them more freedom. But I will say I don't think it would have ruined it if they didn't go, if it wasn't PG-13 or whatever. I don't think it would have killed it. I probably would have made certain scenes a little more challenging and stuff like that. With a couple naked scenes and things like that. But I'll agree with that. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
But
so, yep.
I am excited though for the prospect of Wolverine finally getting that rating, because I think one thing Wolverine hasn't had is the aesthetic viciousness. You see Wolverine put an arm in a guy. Like not to sound like I'm looking for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think that could kick Wolverine up a notch as well, as far as just unleashing the vicious a little bit. Like, he's a vicious dude, and in the movies you haven't really got a chance to see some of what the book depicts, I think, as far as the viciousness of his fighting, or the viciousness of some of his trademark moves. He's a cold-blooded, ruthless, rip you apart killer kind of guy. And I don't know. I mean, you see him as a badass. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if you see him as vicious as he is in the comics. Now, cursing or nudity and stuff like that, neither one really needed it. But I do think some of the viciousness, it allows you to kick it up a notch or two.
Now, as we should point out now, we're talking about Deadpool, but the reason you bring up Wolverine is due to Deadpool's success as an R-rated Marvel Comics movie. Fox has since announced that they're seriously considering going for an R rating on Wolverine 3. So that'll be interesting. And also, they're saying that there's a good chance the X-Force movie will be rated R as well. So it wasn't the last, or won't be the last.
I mean, the key is just don't be like a dumb guy with a paintbrush and just assume that. Don't let that be the new trend. Use it when it makes sense. Like Wonder Woman doesn't need to be R, or stuff like that. Captain America should never be R. Avengers should never be R. Certain things I don't think you need it for. Other things that are a little more darker, a little more mature. Yeah, don't be afraid to use it. Trust your source material. Trust your character. Trust your actors. I think a lot of times we have these stupid. I mean, how many action movies that sounded great, you heard they were R? I mean, not R, and you're just like, oh, that's a strange choice. Like G.I. Joe, isn't that like PG-13? Or
yeah,
there's a few of them where you just kind of think like that's an interesting choice, and you can't help but think that choice is not derived by this will be a better product. It's that old trope. Oh no, we can't drop an R and expect it to do 300 million or whatever it is. So,
well, there's a guy you and I know, one of our friends, who desperately for years has been pushing an R-rated Thundercats movie. And his pitch to me was, it sends a message that this franchise that you grew that you watched as a child, well, you grew up and so did it. And I don't know, maybe he's got a point, but I just think, that's never going to happen. Because it's based on a toy, and the goal is always going to be to sell toys. And even though the toy line hasn't been active in a few years, if they made a movie, they thought would be, oh good, we could sell more toys again.
Yeah, you know what? That'd be a badass anime. I could. I'd be all into that.
Well, so we both like Deadpool a lot. I guess moving on. Next high five I have is for another superhero show. Legends of Tomorrow recently debuted, and I don't know about you, I'm really liking it. You watching it?
I am. I'm liking it a lot. I don't know. I haven't. Is there a book? I guess I've never been a follower of Legends of Tomorrow. So I'm learning about it now on a ground level, and I like it a lot.
Oh no, there's no book for Legends
Okay.
of Tomorrow. They made this up completely.
Oh, okay.
This is something. I mean, all these characters obviously come from the comics. Rip Hunter and all these guys, but they've never been together as a team before. It just seems to be a DC hodgepodge that they threw together, where every character was introduced on Flash or Arrow, with the exception of Rip Hunter, who didn't show up till the pilot episode. But yeah, they're time-traveling superheroes on a spaceship that travels through time, and they're trying to defeat the immortal Vandal Savage. So far, I'm really enjoying it. We know that in future episodes we're getting characters like Jonah Hex, so they're going to go back to the, Old West. They've been back to the 70s. They've been in Cold War Russia so far. And we're hearing they're going to go into the future and see the Green Arrow when he only has one arm, like later in life Green Arrow, and Stephen Amell's going to play that part. So it's kind of fun. Time-hopping superheroes and villains, because Heatwave and Captain Cold are on the team. So, I don't know, what do you think of the team? Like, do you have a favorite character, or anyone that you think doesn't fit or does fit, or I don't know.
I'm not in love with the newer second half of Firestorm yet, the kid. He's starting to grow on me a little bit, but I find he annoys me a little bit. But again, I love Captain Cold. I really do. I've become such a Wentworth fan ever since catching him on Arrow. Like, he's just a dick, and I think it works out really well. Because it's almost like there's something in there where he wants to be redeemed, so it works pretty well. So,
yeah. Captain Cold and the Atom are my two favorite characters so far.
Yep.
But I really love... at episode a few weeks ago, Captain Cold kept picking everyone's pocket. Like, did you see that one?
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. And then, the Atom says to him, he's talking to the one girl, and he steals, he stole her clearance badge or something to get into where they had to go. And the Atom says, well, at least she didn't steal her wallet. And then he shows him the wallet. Like, yes, I did.
He's such a dick.
Yeah.
I love it. It fits really well. And knowing that they made this up, I think is so fun. Because you're right. It's just like a random splattering of characters. We'll take Firestorm, two bad guys, throw them a Vandal Savage. So.
And a couple of, it's sort of like The Walking Dead, in that The Walking Dead would make up characters, the TV show would make up characters that aren't in the comics, and that was your X factor. It's like, well, you don't know what's going to happen with these characters, because even if you read the comics, these guys are new, so you don't know how their story's going to play out. And it's like T-Dog on The Walking Dead was one of those guys, and now Daryl Dixon's one of those guys. Well, we have Jax, the new half of Firestorm, who I agree with you. I'm saying I'd like to see a very Jax-heavy episode, because they need to develop his character.
Yep.
Right now, he's not very well developed, so I think they need one or two episodes that really focus in on him, just so we can kind of get to know him. But Jax is made up for the show, and Sarah Lance, the White Canary, was completely made up for the Arrow show. There's no Sarah Lance in the comics. So these characters are your kind of X Factors. Sarah Lance and Jax, they can do anything with them because they have no comic book counterpart. And it's not like their story has already been written.
Sorry. You okay? Sorry.
That's all right.
But you're right. You can kill them. You can marry them off.
They already killed Sarah Lance.
That's true. You can kill her again. Marry her off, have her become bad, good, whatever you need to do. She could become the other half of Firestorm. There's so much you can do and mess around. I like the dynamic too between and mild spoiler, Hawkgirl and Hawkman, and kind of their their son, and like they did some really neat stuff. I thought, like that
Yeah.
first episode with their son, and I don't know. I mean, as far as I don't know of any child of theirs in the comic book who's just a regular dude scientist, but
Well, it makes sense if they keep
Yeah.
being reincarnated throughout time. They would have had tons of kids all throughout the timeline.
how funny would it be if we keep
So-
running into kids of theirs? Oh, I'm your child.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that, and I can't wait to see how it develops. And I was telling Christine the other day, Arrow and Flash have introduced so many heroes from the DC universe, and there's one who could easily show up on Legends of Tomorrow because she's already been introduced that I keep forgetting about because Arrow hasn't used her since like season 1, and that's the Huntress.
Oh yeah.
Like I keep forgetting that they have the Huntress in this universe because it's been 4 years like since we last saw the Huntress.
Do you see the show as one where they're going to keep dropping and picking people up as they go?
They could, and all right, I'm going to segue into my next high five. I'm going to segue into my next high five and then bring it back because I think it could be one big conversation.
Boomerang.
My next high five was they finally announced Flash and Supergirl are going to cross over.
Mhm.
So Supergirl, I've been saying for a while, Supergirl and Flash and Arrow need to take place on the same Earth because it makes crossovers cleaner. Now, some people have been saying, "Oh, you can't have them on the same Earth because Superman has never been mentioned on Flash or Arrow, and Superman exists on the Supergirl show. So if he's never been mentioned on Flash and Arrow, it's got to be a separate Earth." And I said, you know what? Just retcon it. Just retcon it. Pretend Superman was there all along, and he just never was mentioned. People get very upset about that. No, you can't retcon it. It's got to be a separate Earth. And I'm like, yeah, but here's the thing: Flash can cross Earths. Green Arrow can't.
Yep.
And it makes it much cleaner if it's all one Earth. Well, we now know from a recent episode of The Flash, the crossover hasn't happened yet, but from a recent episode of The Flash, we now know Supergirl is indeed on another Earth. And they're going to cross Earths to get to Supergirl's Earth. I think this is a mistake because it inhibits their ability for crossovers. Now, the reason I say that, we've already met Red Tornado and Martian Manhunter over on Supergirl. So that's 2 more DC Universe heroes that we've met over on that show. They could have been on a future season of Legends of Tomorrow. I guess they still can. I mean, they could find a way for them to cross Earths, but it would have been cleaner if it was all one Earth. But I thought, yeah, future season, I don't know, let's say Wentworth Miller decides to leave the show. Well, you could bring in the Red Tornado because we've already met him. But, it's a lot less clean now because of there's just a fly in the ointment because you got to grab them from an alternate dimension now.
They got to do something weird to make it happen.
Right, which I think is a shame.
Yep.
Would have been better to just retcon it and say, no, they're the same Earth. Superman, they just never mentioned him on Flash or Arrow.
Arrow held Barry's hand and they crossed over to, it has to be one of them deals.
Right.
So,
Or, you know what? They could, like a year from now or 2 years from now, if they're interested, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, they could Crisis on Infinite Earth it and do a crossover where Flash's Earth and Supergirl's Earth merge.
yeah.
Which, has basis in the comics because Crisis on Infinite Earth, that's exactly what happened. And what 2 key characters lost their lives in Crisis on Infinite Earths? Flash and Supergirl.
Both available. It would be cool, like if that were like the season finale for all 3 shows, and they kind of just to force you to watch them all. Buffy Angel, that son of a bitch.
Oh, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. You know what you do? You do Crisis. You have the Earths get merged. You have Flash and Supergirl die in the Crisis, as happened in the comics. And then you make that your season finale of Flash and Supergirl. And then in the season finale of Legends of Tomorrow, they find out Flash and Supergirl died in a crisis, and they decide they're going to go back in time and fix it.
Boom.
And your season premiere the next year is the Legends traveling through time to save their lives. Why aren't we writing these shows?
I'm in.
So anyway, those are my. You got any high fives?
No, actually, I'll also throw X-Files just because the first 2 episodes. Have you been watching X-Files?
I have. I've been watching it. The third episode, I think we both agree the third episode's the best.
That's where I was going. The
Yeah.
third episode, first 2 episodes were, they're okay, but the third episode, it just really, really reminded me of why I loved X-Files in its original run.
Yeah.
Monster of the Week, silly, fun, completely unrealistic, but it was just a great, great, entertaining, well-written, well-thought-out, wacky, zany episode. And I think I miss that kind of stuff on TV. Just something wacky, something zany, something silly, but still well-made, well-acted. And I thought the third episode of X-Files, if you gave up already and didn't get to 3, give 3 a shot because it really is something different. And I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. So,
Well, here's a question: have you seen the 5th episode yet?
I have not. I'm on 4.
Ah, okay.
Does it bring me back? Does it keep going?
Well, not exactly, but the ratings have been great. And Fox wants more. The only problem is David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson are each committed to other series, so their availability is very, very slim. Well, in the 5th episode, we're introduced to 2 new FBI agents who feel like Mulder and Scully even comment on it. It's Mulder and Scully 23 years ago. You've got like the guy who's the believer, played by former Firestorm Robbie Amell from Arrow or Flash, and Lauren Ambrose from the movie Can't Hardly Wait is like the Scully type. And they even comment on how these guys are mirror images of them, but as they were like 20 years ago. So apparently these characters played by Robbie Amell and Lauren Ambrose are going to play a big role in the season finale as well. So it's led to speculation that Fox might be handing the show to those guys. They might be your leads in a future season. I'm sure Mulder and Scully would make appearances, but due to scheduling, these guys might be the stars.
Interesting.
And it's not like it's totally without precedent because other FBI agents took over in the last 2 seasons of the original run of the X-Files.
Yep.
And what's Fox doing right now? They're reviving 24 with a new lead character, not Jack Bauer.
Which saddens me. But we'll talk about that later.
So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm game for more X-Files.
Same. Especially it'd be cool if, I understand Jillian and David are limited. Okay, maybe you reboot it with these 2 new and sprinkle them in whenever you can. Something like that. That'd be fun.
Here's the question, though. Is Fox going to get Robbie Amell to sign for a weekly series of the X-Files? Because, as we already know, he refused to sign for Legends of Tomorrow because he was the other half of Firestorm, and they had to write him out because he didn't want to do the weekly series, and they had to bring in the character Jax to be the other half of Firestorm.
Maybe they'll bring in Jackson next year. No, I'm joking.
Well, I was even speculating to Christine. Maybe Robbie Amell wasn't even asked to do Legends of Tomorrow. Because if you look at the cast of Legends of Tomorrow, if Robbie Amell had been Firestorm, there could have been hashtags that said Legends of Tomorrow so white.
Yeah, they mix it up.
Like the Oscar so white hashtag.
It could have been like maybe they wanted to make it more ethnically diverse.
Yeah, so...
Plus, Robbie probably costs more than whoever that kid is. So maybe it was a money thing, too.
That's also probably true.
Like, it makes you wonder what he asked for. Like, fine, here's what I want. So I wonder if it's a contractual issue as well. So
I don't know. It'll be interesting.
it will be. No, either way, if they give us more, I'll take whatever I can get. If they have to reboot it, I'll take it. And if they can give it to me like it is, I'll take it. So
Well, let's... do we have any more high fives at all?
that's it. Out of hands.
All right, let's come back, do some damage. Then we'll have Paul Fusco, creator of Alf. And then we'll get out of our 100th episode.
I'm going to miss it already.
Damage report. Damage report. Damage report. Damage report. Damage report.
All right, damage report. Do you have any damage?
I don't. I've been on a positive streak, so I'm sure next time I'll see.
What about 24? You said that saddened you, but we get to it. I thought for sure 24 was going to be on your damage report.
See, it will be, but I have to see what they do. Like they still
Okay.
haven't done it yet. You know, it hasn't been officially announced. I know it's never going to happen, but there's a hope deep in my heart to somehow Bauer, as we know him, comes back from, because it was kind of incomplete. Like the way, did you watch 24? I know we're totally off.
I've seen episodes of 24, but I
The,
didn't watch it regularly.
the way it ended is not the way Superman goes down, and I'll leave it at that. So the
Interesting.
way it ended, because you know you may catch up someday. The way it ended, I mean, he didn't die or anything, but the way it ended is not the way Superman goes down. So I'll leave it at that. There has to be, the next step to fix stuff perfectly. Where they did close it, and they closed it cleanly, and they closed it in a way that made sense. No. So
Well, my only bit of damage is ABC and the Muppets. The Muppets is, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen for sure. They haven't announced for sure that if it's coming back or if it's done. But all signs point to the Muppets is about to get canceled. I have said time and again, the Muppets is my favorite new show this past season. I thought it was hilarious. I love the Muppets. I love this new take on them. It was very funny. And it was really great seeing the Muppets on TV again every week. Well, ABC dropped the ball big time. Number one, they took the show. Same thing happened to Heroes Reborn. I should give NBC damage as well for Heroes Reborn. Heroes Reborn was getting good, solid ratings. Now, it wasn't one of the top shows on TV, but the ratings were solid. They took it off and went on a ridiculously long hiatus for the holidays, with only like 3 episodes left of the series. They only had 3 episodes left to go. So they take this ridiculously long break, come back with the final 3 episodes, and the ratings tanked. Absolutely tanked. Nobody came back. So the show got canceled. Muppets did the exact same thing. Same thing verbatim. When the Muppets premiered, it was the highest rated comedy show ABC has had in, I think, 4 years. Well, apparently there was some kind of infighting between the network and the showrunner, and the network wanted to revamp the show, which I knew right as soon as I heard that, because the show was working. It was so good. As soon as I heard they were going to revamp it, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to end well. Well, they came back after a long hiatus. Before we even get to any of the changes made for the revamp, again, long hiatus, nobody came back with the show. Series got its lowest ratings ever upon returning from this extended break. And I don't think the networks ever learn. Unless if you're like a huge, huge hit like The Walking Dead, these long hiatuses don't work. People forget about the show. It's got to be a huge show like Walking Dead or what Lost was back in the day for that kind of a break to work. Otherwise, it just doesn't. People forget about the show. And it happened with the Muppets. Now, as for the revamp, they didn't really revamp it that much. It's still similar, but the humor was a little weird, a little off the wall, and it's gotten a little bit less weird and a little bit more mundane.
yeah.
So it seems like ABC killed the show. And that saddens me because I was so excited that the Muppets were coming back, and I was so satisfied with the series we got, and ABC killed it. And I don't know, I could be wrong. Maybe they'll bring it back for next year. But all signs are pointing to it's not coming back.
And it's funny because they'll blame the ratings, which was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, by taking it away and then messing with it.
Yeah.
They didn't like the way it was, so we had to do something, one of them deals. It's a shame. It really is a shame. Especially when something gets interest. I think it's so hard to grab people's attention. And once you have it, you just can't let go. And
Yeah.
say what you will about The Walking Dead, I know one thing that they do well is they pump the hell out of it too if there is a break. Like you know when Walking Dead's coming back, you can't not see it everywhere. And I think when you do take a shorter or impromptu break mid-season, people kind of tune in, think it's canceled, and they leave, and they just don't come back, or they find something else at that time that day. It's tough to do. I think it's a bad idea. Like whoever's making those decisions, it just seems like they're sabotaging the franchise.
Yeah, I agree. But what can you do?
I know.
The damage is done, and I don't know. It was such a fun show. So, well, but the Muppets, they may be gone. However, it's the 30th anniversary of another puppet we all love. So, let's take a break and come back with Mr. Paul Fusco, creator of one of my all-time favorite shows, Alf. I love Alf. Really love Alf. People don't know. The computer that I'm sitting in front of right now, there's a 1988 official Alf calendar framed, hanging above the computer. And there's an Alf doll sitting on the bar. And there's an Alf bobblehead somewhere. Got misplaced, but I have to put that back on the bar too. So, I love this character, and I'm so excited that we got to talk. I got to talk. Dave was trying, but we were having Skype problems. But to get to talk with the creator, Paul Fusco, quite a treat. Like I said, wanted to have him for so long. I'm so happy we finally made contact with him. I'm so happy he was gracious enough. So here it is. Interview with Alf's creator, Paul Fusco.
Hide your cats.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Robert Hayes. You don't listen to Megapodzilla? Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
What a pisser.
What's the word on the street?
Allow myself to introduce
Isn't that right, Mr. Poopy Pants?
We have so many questions that we want to ask you about the universe. What the hell is wrong with me? You guys ever been to Uranus?
Hi, this is Crazy Joe. I have a very special guest with me today. Since the day I started this podcast, there was one guest I always wanted to have on the show, and I'm very excited to say he's finally here with us. You may not know his name, but you certainly know his work. I have with me today Paul Fusco. He is the creator of Alf. He performed Alf on the TV show, and he created the show, was the producer of the show. Basically, he did it all. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, Joe. Nice to be here. Why did we wait so long if I was your number one guest to be on the show?
I've been reaching out to you for years, and I kept coming up on dead ends. I would reach out to contacts that it said was your agents, and they'd say, we haven't represented him in years, and I just kept hitting dead ends.
Oh, that's unusual. Okay. Well, anyway, we're here.
I'm glad to have you.
Good. Well, I'm glad to be here.
Well, what can you tell us? How did the character come about? It's my understanding that you created the character years before the show actually started.
Yeah, that's true. I was doing a bunch of specials for Showtime that were back when Showtime was just starting, and they had their own children's section, family entertainment section, and I did six holiday specials that were family oriented, that were revolved around puppets and fantasy characters. And out of the development of these shows, one of the shows was a Halloween show, and out of the development of the show, we had a shop. We were building these creatures and everything, and this weird looking thing that was a prototype like Alf, looked like Alf, and I kind of took a liking to the character, the look of it and everything, and I pulled it aside and kind of pondered what I was going to do with it, and just things happened, and I started to give it a personality, and little by little it sort of molded into what Alf was, and then I tried to come up with an explanation as to, okay, so I've got this weird looking character that talks like this, that's kind of annoying, what do I do with him? And it was like, he became in my mind, okay, the only way I could explain the way he looks is, let's say he's from space. He's an outer space visitor. And what's he doing here? Well, he crashed here. And then, you just sort of put the pieces together. And, I knew where I was going with him because I knew the character. And I figured, well, he's going to be the house guest that never leaves. He's going to be the man who came to dinner, Uncle Buck, all those things. And that's basically where it came from. And then I went out to L.A., and was working for Disney for a while on a couple of shows that they were doing for the new fledgling Disney network, Disney Channel. And I got an agent, and I was able to shop this idea around with the character. I had the character I would definitely bring Alf into the meeting so that they could meet him. And that's basically when we went to NBC. Brandon Tartikoff just took an entirely crazy take on him. He loved him, and that's really how it went. But if I didn't have him in the meeting with me, I don't think I would have ever sold the idea because nobody knew what I was talking about.
So when you created the character came first, obviously, and you decided he was an alien. Then came the sitcom. Was the sitcom designed around the character, or did you know all along that he would be living with a family? And you mentioned the house guest that never left. So did that predate the show? You knew what the show would be before there was a show?
Yeah. Originally my idea was the family that he crashed into. It wasn't really a crashing into, but he was some scientist from NASA that tracked him, and it was going to be a guy from NASA that had a family that once they found out about this creature, they didn't know what to do with him, and they couldn't turn him over to the officials, to the government. So he took it upon himself to bring him into his home, and that's really where I was going with it. And I thought if I kept it within NASA, there could have been a few families, a few scientists that all knew about him that would really have to take turns rotating him because he's just such a pain in the neck. Nobody wanted to keep him there full time. But it just, when I got hooked up with my co-producer, co-creator Tom Patchett, and once Tom got involved in it, things kind of changed and sort of morphed into the pilot that we ended up shooting. But basically, it was always intended that he would be put in a domestic Earth situation and comment on Earth and people and the world that we live in.
Well, that's a good segue then, because I wanted to ask you about the show's cancellation. Obviously, the show ended on a cliffhanger. You didn't know it was going to be a cliffhanger.
Right.
There have been rumors over the years. I don't think anyone knows what really happened because nobody was there, but the persistent rumor has been that the human cast found the show to be very slow-moving, and the rumor was always that
It was a horrible show to work for, and everybody was unhappy, and yes, that's a rumor. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody was dancing on air during the production of the show, because it was very hard work. The technical requirements back then to do a show like that were challenging, and it did take us 2 days to get a show in the can. But no, that is not the reason that the show was canceled. I mean, these people, the cast was paid really good money. There was no reason for them to be complaining. They probably had the career role of their careers in this show. So, any speculation afterwards or sour grapes afterwards are certainly unfounded. I'll tell you the reason it got canceled, and the reason that we ended up on a cliffhanger was because NBC was not sure whether or not they were going to. By the way, when we went off the air, the show was still in the top 25 shows on TV. I mean, we're going back to now 1990. There were only 3 networks. I think Fox was just starting up. So, you had your share of the audience was still pretty big, not like it is today with 790,000 channels. But Brandon Tartikoff was getting ready to step down, and what happened in the business world was, prior to 1990, the networks were not able to own the TV shows that they ran. There was a antitrust law in effect that prohibited them from, because it would have been a monopoly. It prohibited them from owning whatever shows they produced. So basically, the networks gave you money, gave producers money. They produced a TV show. The networks got to run it, and then the ownership of the shows always went back to the producers, the people who did the shows.
Right.
In 1990 or 1989, it all changed. They changed the antitrust laws, so now the networks were able to own their own programming, which was a big, big step forward for them. So what happened was NBC, and as did CBS and ABC, they formed their own production companies. And out of that came NBC Productions, and they started to develop their own shows. And one of the shows that they developed was a show called Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which they owned. And of course, it behooves them to put a show on the air that they own. They're not going to develop shows and not put their own shows on the air. So they developed this show, and it tested well, and it was a hit, and they had nowhere to put it. So it made sense for them from a business standpoint that you take off a show that you don't own to put on. They needed the time slot, basically. They did the schedule, and that's why we got bumped. We got canceled. So the reason for the cliffhanger was we were told by NBC, because they were on the fence. They didn't know which shows they were going to take off the air to make room for the shows that they were producing. So we were told, look, we don't know if you guys are coming back for another season. If you don't, we will give you a 1-hour special to wrap up the cliffhanger, so that the audience won't be left on the edge of their seat, and you'll be able to tie up the package, and good luck, and we'll see you later. So that's how we left it. What happened after that was Brandon Tartikoff left NBC, and he went on to run Paramount Pictures, head of the motion picture division, and his successor was Warren Littlefield. And Warren Littlefield decided not to live up to the promise of his predecessor, and we were just left hanging, and that was it. We were just told afterwards that you're not coming back, and we're not going to let you do the special, and there you go. So then a few years later, ABC came to us and said, you guys never really wrapped that up. What's going on? And we kind of told them the story. So they gave us the order to do a made-for-TV movie called Project Alf, which we were hopefully going to show you what happened to Alf after he got captured by the alien task force, and it would have been Alf in the military, Alf being held, almost like a Guantanamo Bay type of thing. Alf,
right?
But he's got everybody under his finger, and he's going to become almost like a Sergeant Bilko. He's selling chocolates. He's got the PX concession. They all love him, but they just don't know what to do with it. And it was going to be if it was successful, or if they had the room for it, they were going to use it as a backdoor pilot. That's what they used to call it. It's so that if it was really well received, we would have gotten another series out of it, sort of a continuation of Alf's life after the Tanners. So that is it in a nutshell. That's the truth, and nothing but the truth. So all those other rumors, I don't know. There's so many things out there that you read them and you say, "Oh God, where'd that come from?" But
well, if you don't mind my asking, what would season 5 have been had you come back? Would Alf have still been with the Tanners, but the world would know about him now?
No, the military would know about him, and the Tanners would have had visitation rights to him, or maybe on the weekends Alf would still go with the Tanners. But what happened after 4 seasons of Alf being, basically it was a recluse, and there weren't too many, we only opened the window to show Alf meeting new people very, very carefully, because we didn't want to, it was a fine line of logic to say, he's being held captive here, but he's also being protected. We didn't, after 4 years, we sort of painted ourselves into a corner that there were just so many stories that you could use with a family. There's just so much trouble that Alf could get into in a household with one family. So by bringing him into the military and opening it up to that world, it would have opened up our story possibilities. We would have had more people for him to interact with, and more possibilities of him to get into trouble. So it would have given us a little bit more leeway, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
The stories we were starting to do during the season, we were starting to do 2 or 3 dream sequences in the show, only because we wanted to show Alf in real life situations, but we didn't want to blow his cover, so we couldn't. So we would do a thing where he dreamt he was president of the United States, or he took over a company, or he met David Letterman, or whatever it is, and that's how we would open up the show. And it was very tempting because the writers were always pitching dream shows, say, because they would come in with Alf as president of the United States, Alf as F. Lee Bailey, Alf as, and of course we'd laugh and say that's hysterical, and I had to put the hammer down and say, look, we can only do 3 dream shows a year. That's it. We can't, it's like it's not that show. We have to keep it grounded and based in reality. But the easy thing was to come up with all these fantasy premises for Alf to be in. So anyway, we did our share of dream shows. That's for sure.
I actually was just watching the one the other day where he was president.
President, that's right. That's right. He's explaining, and you'd run it. You'd do something like that now, especially during an election year. You'd say, "Oh my God, this would be hysterical." Imagine Alf up there with Trump and all those people to be able to hear what he had to say. It's like he's just as funny today in today's contemporary times than he was in 1986.
Well, that was the brilliant thing about Alf, was that as an outsider to our society, he was able to be the commentator on our absurdities, and
that was what made it easy. That was the fun part about it, because you cut him a little slack. It was he could be outspoken, and you could couch it in the fact that, well, he didn't know better, or he could say something that was inappropriate, and you could couch it on, he's an alien. What do you want? So that's what made it really funny and workable. And he was always the one to address the elephant in the room. He was you wanted to know what he had to say, what he was thinking about, even though it wasn't right on, or it could have been a little bit skewed or whatever. But I remember there was a line from one of the shows where Alf's doing something really strange at the table or something, and with Brian, the kid there, and Willie walks in and he says something, and he just says, I really just don't understand you. And Alf turns to Brian and goes, "Tell him, Brian." And Brian turns to his father and goes, "He's an alien." So, we get away with a lot with that. He's an alien.
Paul, we're at 15 minutes. Do you mind if I ask you about 4 more questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I've been rewatching the show with my 7-year-old, who loves it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently got to the episode where Alf got the ventriloquist dummy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got questions for you about that episode. Here we have a man named Paul controlling a puppet who's controlling a puppet named Paul.
Uh-huh.
What was going on there? That seems like it was meta before the word meta was invented.
Oh, it was, I'll tell you something. The original script, that original episode, was so dark and creepy that we loved it. It was really, really funny. It was about Alf's alter ego coming out, and a lot of people had said, we remember the Twilight Zone episode. There were like 2 Twilight Zone episodes with a ventriloquist dummy, and people always found ventriloquist dummies creepy anyway. And then there was that movie Magic, with Anthony Hopkins, where the dummy, and then there was Chucky and all that kind of stuff. So we had a really, really funny script, and it was really, really dark, where Alf's persona really got into some creepy stuff. And I'm not saying, science fiction, scary stuff, but it was funny. And NBC was really, really worried that it might be too dark, that it would scare the kids. And our argument was, we never really created the show for kids anyway. It was an adult show. We never wrote the show for kids. We never, our sensibilities were, if it made us laugh, that's the show. That's what it was. Well, anyway, we sweetened it up a little bit, and we made it a little bit more saccharine and a little bit more, palatable for the family audience and everything like that. So, to answer your question, the Paul joke, the naming the dummy Paul, was obviously an inside joke from the writers, to say, because I think there's a line in there. When she explains to him how you work the dummy and what you have to do, and she says, well, first of all, you got to give him a funny name. Most of you, I'm going to call him Paul. Well, why are you going to call him Paul? Well, on Melmac, that's like the funniest name you can have, and or something like that. And it was just like, okay. He said, oh yes. He said, no. He said, a Melmac Paul is the worst thing you can call somebody. It's almost as bad as calling them a son of a Paul. And then it became, so it was a joke on me, and that's basically where it came from. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun to do that because it was Alf again taking something and going so far with it that you said, oh my God, what can you possibly do wrong with a ventriloquist figure? And there you have it. So.
One thing I find, I was a huge fan of the show, still am, and when I talk about the show with people, I find that people who don't remember it quite as vividly as I do, they may not remember specific episodes, they may not remember episode details, but one thing that really sticks out in people's minds are the names you came up with for the characters. Names like Gordon Shumway, Wayne Schlegel, Mrs. Achmonic. Where did these names come? Did you know people in your real life with these names, or did you just make these up?
I think they did come from people that we did know, because they came from different people. Mrs. Achmonic came from, I think Tom Patchett had a next-door neighbor that actually his name was something like Achmonic, and he always thought that was a funny name, so that's where that came from. Wayne Schlegel, I think, was somebody that we knew. One of the writers knew somebody named Wayne Schlegel. So they were based on, you just like, you go through life and you hear a funny name, you put it back and you say, hey, I'm going to use that name someday. That's kind of funny. And a lot of times too, it was just because it was a funny sounding name, they'd come up with something.
Is there anything you always wanted to do with Alf that you never got the chance to do?
I would say probably a feature-length movie, which we are now working on. I think that the character deserves a shot at the big screen, seeing that there have been, in my opinion, lesser characters that have had a shot at the big screen.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Alf would be a great family movie. I think it would give the character a chance to be explored by a new generation. And I know that the character works. The character is still as timely today as he was in 1986, 87, 88, because Alf is as current as the times.
Yes.
And it certainly is a crazier world today than it was back then, and he would certainly have more things to say and might be a little bit more bitter. I don't know, but so we are now in the process of developing a movie for Alf, and see how that goes.
Well, that was going to be my next question for you, actually. I wanted to ask about that movie. I don't know how much you can say yet, but again, going into the world of rumor, we're hearing that Alf might be computer animated instead of a puppet. Is there any truth to that?
Well, we don't know. Whatever he ends up being, he's going to look the same and not be different. There's a lot of technology that's available that we can do now that we couldn't do back then. But there's good computer animation and there's bad computer animation, and I certainly wouldn't want him to look any different than he did on the TV show. So, it might be a mixture of both. We don't know. When we get to that point, we will probably do tests and see what looks good and what doesn't look good, and go from there. So, that's just something we're open to. But, by exploring the technology, it certainly would give Alf more freedom and be able to do more things. Again, it would have to look to our standards, and you wouldn't. The biggest compliment would be if you watched the movie, you wouldn't know how it was being done. You wouldn't know whether it was computer animated or a puppet or what. So that would be the true test, and I think it's possible. It's completely changing. I mean, every year the technology gets better and better and better. So,
do you envision a movie going back to the beginning and showing Alf crashing again, or would you try to pick it up sometime after the series?
We would probably want to pick it up later. I think it would do the movie, and it would do the TV show disservice to recreate it with new people. I think a couple of films have tried to do that, like Bewitched, and trying to remember, there's another one, but that's proven not to be a great idea because people are always comparing the new family with the old family, and you get into all kinds of controversies there. So
Right.
I think we would pick it up at a later point.
Well, I want to thank you for doing this interview. We appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Absolute truth, you were the first name when we started doing this show 5 years ago. I said I want Paul Fusco, and
well, as Alf would tell you, you have very good taste. So good luck with your show, and I'm sorry your partner wasn't able to join us, but well, what can I say?
Well, yeah, I just didn't want to hold you up. So, but
yeah, I appreciate that. Well, again, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it, and thanks for being a fan. All right. Good
thank
luck.
you. All right. Excuse me. Cough. Like I said, cough. You can.
Hadouken!
Yeah, you can try to mute the cough or suppress the cough, but sometimes they do slip through. So
That makes a good drinking game. No problem.
yeah, well, yes. Every time on this episode I cough, have a drink. Of course, we're at the end now, so you'll have to rewind it.
But that's cool because it gives you an excuse to get drunk. Actually, you didn't do too many. I'm sad
Yeah.
to say they won't get that drunk.
Well, they could also drink every time a baby cries.
There you go.
So that's it. Thank you to Paul Fusco. Really appreciate him being here. That's our 100th episode. There is a 101th episode. Is that
Just
a word?
like the Dalmatians. It is now.
Is that 101th?
Once.
101th.
101st.
Yes, that's the word.
There we go. Like the Airborne Division.
Me knows how to talk the English language. So, anyway.
I feel you.
There is a 101st episode that's been recorded already, and it's very timely. In the 101st episode that I'll be posting very soon, very timely episode, Bob Trait and I discuss our thoughts on The Force Awakens.
Ooh. Before or after?
After.
Okay, good.
After.
So at least you didn't have a bad prediction in there. Like, this is going to be worse than The Phantom Menace. No one's going to go see this. You know.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We recorded it a while ago, and we hadn't recorded the 100th episode yet. And I said a long time ago, well, the 100th episode is going to be the Paul Fusco interview. So I got this episode of us talking about the Phantom Menace, or not Phantom Menace, Force Awakens, and it was like, well, it can't be the 100th episode. The 100th episode's the Paul Fusco episode. So I had to sit on it, like the Fonz.
Bucko.
Yeah. Until we got this done. And it took us a while to get this done. So now, finally, 101 can be released. And that leads to the question, what's the deal with episode 102? Well, here is the deal. I will tell you. I said we were going to take a break until Batman Superman. At the time, I didn't realize that this show wouldn't be coming out until a month before Batman Superman. But a lot of podcasts have been ending. I've noticed a lot of good podcasts have been coming to a close. There's a podcast I listened to called The Geek Shall Inherit, and I don't know what happened to them. They just kind of pod faded. They didn't make any announcement. They just haven't done a show since July. I'd like to point out that one of the podcasters on the show's wife recently had a baby. So apparently, much like Megapodtzilla, surprise, babies make podcasting hard. Also, The Dead Pit is a podcast I used to listen to devoted to horror films. They've recently come to a close and decided they're not going to be doing their show anymore. So this makes me think there's a void. The little podcasts, a lot of them are fading, and maybe I should try to keep this going, just because a lot of other shows are ending. Maybe we shouldn't end at the same time. Maybe we should give people something to listen to. So I'm thinking, we might try to keep this going. But it's going to require a few things, and it's just a matter of, can I pull all those things together? So stay tuned. The one thing I always promise is we're not going to pod fade without telling you it's the last show. You'll know when the last show gets here. We're not just going to disappear, and you're going to be like, oh, hey, it's been 6-7 months since Megapodzilla, I wonder if they're coming back. No, they're not coming back. I mean, you're going to know. So that's my promise.
Unless we get those DC writing jobs, then we're out.
Yes.
That's it.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Well, thank you, Big Jim.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. For 100, baby.
100.
100. That's like 1/3 of, the Spartans that it takes to take down a Persian horde.
Oh, yeah.
That's math.
That's the Star of Gods of Egypt right there.
Star of Gods of Egypt.
Yeah. All right, well, if you got something to say, give us a call at 610-624-1985, 610-624-1985. You could be on the show. You can email us, too, at megapodzilla@gmail.com. And, Facebook, Twitter, just look for Megapodzilla. Also, check out YouTube. Look up Megapodzilla on YouTube, because I may start doing some stuff on YouTube with the show, posting some segments up there, help people find us. Maybe some of our interviews will show up on YouTube, just to kind of get some attention to people who weren't listening already. So we'll see. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Might try something different.
You may get to see Crazy Joe's dingus if you play your cards right, kids.
Oh, well, my dingus is already all over YouTube.
All over.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
I mean, it's been uploaded to the internet. I mean, I rub it against the screen.
Yeah, a little slap and pat.
Yeah.
Wasn't been there.
Yeah.
You play springboard, you pull it back and just let it Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Usually while I'm watching trailers for the Smurf movies.
For me, it's Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Oh, well, he is your friend and a whole lot more.
A whole lot more. So, I mean, a lot. Like, he's my friend. Wink. Butt stuff.
Well, with that note, keep on wearing those pajamas.
Keep on wearing them jammies.
Keep wearing those pajamas
with the plastic feet.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Tell everyone you meet.
Keep wearing those pajamas
with the back door flap.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander Adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas.
Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now we're having fun.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now the song is done.